fertility of the Jewish people in Egypt, when the men were despondent, happened thanks to the women. When Moses built the tabernacle, it is written that women brought the mirrors they used for personal grooming to give them to Moses to make the bronze laver. The mirrors of those days were not like today's glass mirrors with silver plating. They were polished copper, metal, and bronze. When they brought them to Moses, he rejected them, saying that they were vanity, external beauty, and he didn't want to take them for the tabernacle. But God told him, "Take them and make the laver out of them, for peace and reconciliation between a man and his wife. These mirrors are precious to me." In Egypt, when the Jewish men were enslaved, they were discouraged, and they had no desire to be with their wives. They only cared about their work. The women would sit under the apple tree, as it says in Song of Songs, and they would take their mirrors, show them to their husbands who were broken and despondent, and say, "Look at me, who is more beautiful?" This revived them, and thus children were born, and the continuity of the Jewish people was preserved. God told Moses, "Why do you reject these mirrors? The entire future of the Jewish people is because of them. Take them and make the laver." This is the power God gave to women. King Solomon says, "A woman of valor is the crown of her husband." A woman of valor knows how to manage properly. She is diligent, quick, loyal, wise, and active. She's like a crown to her husband. She lifts him to a level of kingship. But a disgraceful woman, one who should be ashamed of her actions and her behavior, who is not acting correctly, ruins him to the bone. Just as a bone starts to decay from within until the entire body collapses, Solomon illustrates how a woman, on the one hand, can elevate her husband, can build up her children, who will be properly educated, with the example of a wise mother, who knows how to act without insults or degradation. There are women who struggle in life and vent all their frustrations on their children, and these children grow up without self-confidence and joy in life. Even when they marry, their behavior toward their wives is poor because of what they saw at home. But a wise woman knows how to manage her children, how to compliment them, even when there's criticism, without humiliation and degradation, and without generalizations like, "Oh, you're always like this. You are always unsuccessful. You are always breaking things. You never learn." Why say this to the child? A child is not always like that. He has many virtues. A wise woman knows how to praise the child for the qualities he has and guide him in areas where he might be wrong. She knows how to direct him, telling him, "Act like this, don't act like that. This is right, this is wrong," encouraging him, complimenting him, lifting him up, and building him for life. So far, this is the simple explanation of the verse. A woman of valor is the crown of her husband, but she who causes shame is like rottenness in his bones. And with this, King Solomon intended to teach through a parable. Let's see what the parable means. The parable is true. We've spoken many times about the idea in the book of Proverbs. Rashi writes that you can learn from the parable, and the parable itself teaches you guidance for life. But the true lesson is always on a spiritual level. For example, in a more physical context, the parable conveys a spiritual message. So what does King Solomon want to teach with this parable? He is telling men what kind of woman they should look for. Seek a woman of valor. A woman who is energetic, quick, loyal, and has good traits is worthy of being called a woman of valor. Let's read the words of Rabbeinu Yonah on this verse. Rabbeinu Yonah lived about 700 years ago, and in his commentary on the book of Mishnah, he writes on this verse that Solomon wants to warn men. In other words, Solomon wants to warn men to be careful and cautious when choosing a wife. Don't be tempted by external appearances, such as a rich woman or a beautiful woman with an impressive exterior. This external allure might attract you, but she might be a disgraceful woman. You will only suffer from her behavior, So why enter such a relationship? Look for a woman of valor, and your life will be better. This is also guidance for women. Every woman who wants to succeed in life should say to herself, I want to be a woman of valor, a woman with all the right virtues, who knows how to speak, how to approach, to be like the wife of On Ben Pele, so that people will say about me, wise women build their homes. Don't be like the foolish woman whose hands destroy her house, causing conflict for her husband. A woman has power over her husband. She can persuade him to fight with neighbors or to argue with his boss at work. But a wise woman knows how to manage money, to save when necessary, and to spend wisely. People earn money, and there are those with a good income, but they still rent because they don't know how to save. They buy everything they see. A wise woman knows how to prepare delicious, nutritious, and inexpensive meals, saving for the future so they can buy a home and accumulate the capital necessary to later add a mortgage instead of paying rent. Rent is like taking money from your pocket and throwing it on the street to the landlord. Make sure you have equity, even if you grew up in a family where the financial situation wasn't great. Save, work hard, and invest in equity. At the base, you need to pay the bank. Instead of paying rent, pay the mortgage, so it's like you're taking money from your pocket and putting it into the other pocket. Then there is the interest of the bank and the bank's profits, or at least a person is advancing in life and has his own house. A lot depends on the woman. If the woman is wasteful, doesn't know how to manage money, and can't save, then you can't advance in life. Maimonides, in his guidance to men on how to behave with their wives, writes that a man should honor his wife more than his own body and love her as his own body. He continues by saying that if he has money, he should increase his kindness toward her according to his wealth. This means that the correct approach from the man is not to create a suffocating atmosphere by questioning her purchases, why she bought this, why she wants that, or if she's overspending. Sometimes buying is also her therapy. It heals her soul, it makes her feel good. But she should also be self-aware, know when to pull back and when to save in order to secure a future. According to Maimonides, the man should give her the freedom to act, but also maintain balance, knowing that a woman can handle this if the husband's attitude is proper. Now, what is the parable? What did King Solomon want to teach us? The Maharal says that